Close your eyes and let me take you on a magical journey to a land of kings, wizards, and wonders. Tonight, we will hear the tale of a curious king, a mysterious wooden horse, and a prince who dared to dream big. Get comfortable and ready for an adventure in the land of Persia, where magic and courage create the most marvelous stories. This is the story of a magical wooden horse. Once upon a time, in the grand kingdom of Persia, there lived a king who loved to witness all things marvelous. Once every year, he declared a special day when magicians, wizards, and tricksters from far and wide gathered in his court to show off their wonders. They amazed the king and left with sacks full of gold. But on this particular day, as the king sat on his glittering throne, something unusual happened. A strange man, who looked as thin as a scarecrow and dressed in tattered robes, stepped forward. He held up a wooden horse, its polished surface gleaming in the sunlight. "Your Majesty, behold! A wooden horse unlike any other," the man said proudly. The king raised an eyebrow, his face turning as red as a ripe pomegranate. "You dare present me, the king of Persia, owner of 10,000 fine horses, a toy and call it wonderful?" he thundered. The scarecrow-like man grinned. "Your Majesty," he said, "this wooden horse can make even your finest steeds hide in shame." Before anyone could question him, the man climbed onto the wooden horse. With a gentle twist of its left ear, something extraordinary happened. The wooden horse began to rise, higher and higher into the sky. Gasps of amazement echoed through the royal court as the crowd watched the man soar above the clouds. After 10 breathtaking minutes, he gracefully descended, landing softly back in the court. His face beamed with pride. The king, finally finding his voice, demanded, "Name your price, wizard." "The princess." The man replied without hesitation. The court erupted in whispers, for the man wasn't interested in gold or jewels, only the hand of the princess in marriage. The king frowned deeply, unsure of what to do. But just then, the prince, who had been silently watching, leapt onto the wooden horse. Without waiting for permission, the prince twisted its left ear just as the man had. In an instant, the horse shot up into the sky, taking the prince far beyond the clouds. The king laughed nervously, trying to hide his worry. "He loves his sister too much to let her marry a stranger," he chuckled. "But how will he return? He doesn't know the trick." The scarecrow laughed heartily as well, only to be met with a furious king. "Throw this man in the dungeon," the king thundered. Though the man pleaded that it wasn't his fault, the king growled, "You are to blame for your arrogance." Meanwhile, high above the hills and city, the prince marveled at the beauty of the sky. Clouds shimmered in silver, gold, and diamond hues, while a billion stars sparkled in the vast blue night. But soon, the prince realized his predicament. He didn't know how to return. Thinking quickly, he twisted the horse's right ear. The horse began to descend, but the prince couldn't guide it to the palace. Instead, the magical steed landed softly on the roof of a massive castle. Leaving the horse behind, the daring prince sneaked into the castle. He tiptoed through a wide hall filled with armed men, all fast asleep. Beyond it, he entered another hall, this time filled with armed women. In this hall, the prince discovered a magnificent room where a beautiful princess lay asleep on an ivory cot. Whispering softly, he marveled at her beauty. His gentle words woke the princess, who stared at him in surprise. "Who are you?" she asked. I am the Prince of Persia, he replied, lost in a strange land, brought here by a magic horse. The princess smiled. I am the Princess of Bengal. You are welcome in my palace. She made arrangements for him to stay and treated him with kindness and hospitality. Days turned into weeks, and the two grew closer, realizing they could not bear to be apart. One moonlit night, they decided to leave together on the magic horse. The prince whispered to the horse, "Take us to the capital of Persia." To his delight, the horse understood. But instead of landing at the palace, they arrived in a garden just outside it. The prince hurried to the palace to inform his father of their return. The king rejoiced and freed the man in the dungeon, rewarding him with gold. But the story didn't end there. The princess was kidnapped by the scarecrow man, who had escaped and sought revenge. With courage and determination, the prince rescued her once again, defeating the scarecrow and proving his love. Finally, the prince and princess were married in a grand celebration. The magic horse was retired to the royal museum, and the kingdom rejoiced. And so, the prince and princess lived happily ever after, their love as timeless as the stars in the sky. As you drift off to sleep, remember the magic of courage, love, and determination. And here is the moral of the story: true bravery lies in quick thinking and a kind heart. Even when faced with challenges, love and courage will always find a way.